Okay, I'm making a video response to this guy who made a video about not blaming the attacks on black people, but blaming it on our leaders. I mean, he said some things I agree with, and he said some things that I disagree with. A couple of things he said, it kind of set me back. First of all, like, the video was basically like a contradiction. The title said that don't blame black people for these anti-Asian attacks, right? But in the video, he was basically pointing his fingers at black people for the most part. He talking about where the black leaders at, and Asian leaders are too chicken shit to go ask the black leaders for help and all that. And I noticed this is what I learned from Brother Tito, is that many of the times it's not what somebody say, it's what they don't say. He didn't say what about these white leaders. He did say Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is a scapegoat. He's an easy target. And plus, everybody don't like Donald Trump. Even white folk. That's white folk that don't like Donald Trump. So he's not going to get much of a backlash by calling out Trump. He didn't call out white folk. I mean, he didn't call out Latinos. That's Latino leaders, etc., etc. But he didn't have any smoke for them. His finger was just pointing at black folk, and it's like this. Why do we need leaders? That's to me. It kind of implies that we can't think for ourselves without a leader. No, there's people that can think for themselves without somebody trying to speak for them. I don't need a leader to speak for me. And he tried to basically call out L. Sharpton, like black leaders not coming out to say anything. He said a particular leader that rhymes with Arton. He was talking about L. Sharpton, which is actually complete ludicrous because L. Sharpton actually came out and he was vocal on the attacks that was happening in the Asian community. Actually, he was like one of the first people to come out before Stop Stop the Asian Hate even became popular. Even before it got popping. And a lot of black folk was like necessarily wasn't happy with him for doing that, because there are a lot of black folks that feel like why should we be out here caping for other groups when they ain't caping for us? So dude was completely wrong about L. Sharpton, and I'm not defending L. Sharpton, but why I always go to like leaders such as L. Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, and why is it black leaders' responsibility to come out here and speak up like that? Be very vocal. There's nothing wrong with people being vocal and speaking up, but the way he said it in the video, it was like he thought it was black leaders' responsibility to come out and speak on the behalf of these issues coming out, not come out and speak on the behalf of these issues from the greatness of their heart. But the dude who made the video had sort of a tone of demanding it. And it's like this, don't y'all have your own leaders? You have your own leaders. And what about these other people, these other groups? Why are you not trying to reach out to them, but you point your fingers at black leaders or black people? And as a matter of fact, we don't really need leaders to speak for us. Black people have a mind of our own. And there's a lot of black people that condemn these attacks. It's a lot of black people that spoke up on Twitter, on social media, even on YouTube, about how they don't agree with what's going on out here. Even me, I've been vocal. I made a video giving my support. I even used the hashtag Stop the Asian Hate on my Facebook. A lot of people liked that comment. And what I really didn't like is how he tried to lecture the black community. It's like he he wanted black leaders to come out here and speak to the black community about Asian hate, basically to try to lecture black people about these attacks that's happening to the Asian community. And I give my condolence to my fellow Asian brothers and sister counterparts, but at the same time, I thought that was kind of disrespectful for this guy to insist that our black leaders, so-called black leaders, should just come out and lecture black people about no Asian hate when one, they don't even have to do that because black people don't support what's happening out here. And two, black people are not even out here attacking Asian people like that. Those are like isolated incidents. Most of those attacks are happening from other ethnic people and white people, and even some other Asian people. I kind of found that as a dead because it's basically like, how can you talk about racism and all that when you're doing all these attacks? You're a hypocrite and you're the real racist. Like, no, I'm sorry, you can't scapegoat with us. And I seen the video with Daniel Day Kim. He was like, yo, they trying to scapegoat us. And I agree with him. They're trying to blame all Asian people for the coronavirus, and that's wrong. You can't blame a whole group of people for the coronavirus. That's just wrong. But at the same time, I do see some hypocrisy. It's like individuals, they're doing the same thing that they claim people are doing to them, pointing the finger at a whole group of people. And we're not here having all this anti-Asian sentiment. That's just not the truth. I'm sorry, but with all due respect, you cannot put the blame on us and try to scapegoat us because you don't want to call out on your white daddy and your white God. And yes, I'm going there. I'm sorry, with all due respect. And I didn't like how he tried to nitpick certain situations in the past in order to try to point the finger at Black Americans. He nitpicked certain hostilities that happened between blacks and Asians, like in the 80s and 90s when so-called Korean business owners was getting attacked by so-called black people, even though there's no truth to that. I mean, there's no proof to that. Like, I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't done enough research, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no proof of that. That black people is just murdering and killing Korean business owners, which makes no sense at all. And he tried to insist that the tension between Asians and blacks happened because that incident happened back in the day when that little black girl got shot by that Korean store owner. And I would argue and say that that tension has been there before that. That situation was just the icing on the cake. And I didn't like how the dude in that video trying to make it seem like that tension or that hostility started with Black Americans when that's farther from the truth. Because if you look farther in history, we've always been supportive. We always ride out for Asian people and including other groups of people as well. We always try to ride out for everybody. Like, I found this kind of hysterical because, a lot of Asian countries have been getting screwed over by Europeans historically, not black people. We didn't bomb any place. America went to war with Japan, and Uncle Charlie runs America, including the government. Now, the government used to be segregated at one point. Blacks weren't even allowed to be around the white soldiers. So that tells you right there we weren't in controlling anything. It was controlled by Uncle Sam, Uncle Charlie. America went to war with Korean. I heard that was like a Korean war with America. And America went to war in Vietnam. Guess what? Black people, especially black men, was going to jail left and right because they didn't want to go down there and kill those people, kill those other brown people, other people of color. Even Muhammad Ali went to jail. I mean, I'm just finding out now that America went to war with the Philippines around 1899 all the way to 1910 or 1913, somewhere around there. But a black man named David Fagan, he defected from the U.S. Army because he didn't like the fact that the U.S. Army was basically genociding those Philippines, especially like the darker skinned ones. Like the Filipinos, they was going to get eradicated. They got saved by a black dude. What's next? We got the Chinese Exclusion Act, where America didn't even want y'all here. I mean, black people was fighting for immigrants to be able to come over here. And once Chinese and Asian people came down here, white people wasn't messing with y'all like that. They didn't even want y'all in their neighborhoods. I mean, y'all came to the black neighborhoods and there was no beef. Actually, black folks embraced. We had no issues letting y'all come in the community and setting up shops too. And we've been supporting your businesses. And even Hollywood, we've been supporting, Chinese culture, like these karate movies and everything, Bruce Lee. And I'm just now found out that Bruce Lee was supposed to be he was supposed to be in the TV show called Kung Fu, the original Kung Fu. Now, Kung Fu, they ended up casting a white guy as the main character. And I just now found out that Bruce Lee was in the Green Hornet TV show, but they had to cover his face, or they put a mask on his face the whole time because Hollywood didn't want to show his Asianness, and Hollywood was super racist back then. I mean, Hollywood's still racist now, but they wasn't playing back then. If you look at history, black people have always been supportive and always ride out for Asian society. So all of a sudden in 2020 and 2021, black people just decide, you know what, let's just hate them. Let's just plot attacks on them. Yeah, we need to go out here and attack these Asians. Like, black people don't even talk like that. We don't even talk. We don't even have anti-Asian talk like that. Where if you see an Asian, walk the other way, walk on the other side of the street. Like, no, we don't even have that talk. And the most talk we have is when it comes to like white people. When it comes to like racism, they have that talk with their kids, especially with the boys. You gotta be careful with these white girls out here, man, because they get you in trouble. We don't have that Asian talk. We have that white talk, but we don't have that Asian talk. We don't even have that Latino talk or that Indian talk, that Arab talk. We don't have none of those type of discussions in the households. And so he tried to nitpick the whole situation that was going on between Koreans and black people. First of all, he was talking about how Koreans, they was either getting murdered or crimes was getting committed towards them. He said he didn't say the other side of the conversation. He was one-sided in that video because a lot of black people was complaining about some of these Koreans business owner or some of these Asian business owners basically being bigoted towards them, having the same white supremacist mindset as a lot of these white supremacists, following them in stores, hurry up and buy, or accusing them of stealing something when they wasn't. And I'm willing to bet even some of them were calling these black folks out of their names, calling them racial slurs. I'm willing to bet that some of those they was talking slick to them and they say the N word and things got out of control. And people should know how black people are. If we feel like we being slighted or we been dead wrong, we gonna call it out. Dude in that video, he wasn't really specific. I don't know what ethnicity he is. I know he Asian, but I don't know if he Chinese, Korean. I'm just gonna assume he's Korean because he brought up those unfortunate incidents with the Koreans. But he nitpicked certain aspects, and here's like Ice Cube coming up with a song called Black Korean, which had nothing to do with being anti-Asian or anything like that. He's from Compton. I'm pretty sure a lot of them cats in Compton, they've experienced some racism with anti-blackness in these Asian businesses. And that was just Ice Cube calling out the anti-blackness, talking about how people come in their communities and disrespect them. It had nothing to do with being anti-Asian. And he tried to nitpick a certain scene in Boys in the Hood when some guy pointed to like an Asian business or something like that. He said that's part of the problem, which it is the problem. It had nothing to do with that person being Asian. It's because, yo, you coming into our communities, setting us shot, and then you not respecting us. You disrespecting us. You got this anti-black mindset, the same white supremacist mindset, mistreating us, following us around in the store, talking about hurry up and buy. or accusing us of stealing or making some shady slide comments. Because I hear a lot of black people complaining is talking about how they've been treated in these stores, especially a lot of Gen Xers. I don't know how old the dude was in that video because it seemed like he was in his 30s. Maybe he was in his 30s, but you didn't grow up in, I don't think he grew up in that era to know what he was talking about. Because I talked to some people, I listened to people on YouTube that grew up in that era. They're in their 40s, Gen Xers. So they was pretty much telling people their experience. And I'm going to be honest, I had a bad experience. It wasn't too bad, but last time I went to a Chinese restaurant was about a couple years ago, and I didn't go back because the dude was rude. I just didn't go back. How you going to come into like black communities, set up shop, then have an anti-black mindset, a white supremacist mindset for want our money, and then you going to take over? That is a problem. That would be a problem for anybody, regardless of your background. And then he was going around saying that Biggie Smalls, rappers like Biggie Smalls was saying the C word. And I'm not gonna justify it because that's just something I don't do. I don't call people racial slurs. But you gotta understand that black people have been suffering from anti-blackness for so long. It's just like we snap or we get super pissed off. That's why you might have a black person say the word cracker. Cracker ass cracker, because he got so pissed off at the anti-blackness that a white person displayed towards him, and he had these bad experiences that he snapped out of anger. Now I'm not saying that that's right, because if black people talk like that, that's because they had some bad experience, or somebody had said something or did something to them to set them off like that. We just don't go after people like that. And I'm not saying that's justifiable, because two wrongs don't make it right. I'm never gonna call somebody a racial slur, even if I'm angry, or even if I felt like I was slighted or did wrong. I'm never gonna call somebody a racial slur. But back to the this point, I want to go to this different point about it seemed like he tried to blame the LA riots on black people. A lot of these Korean businesses, I think, caught on fire or was destroyed and stuff like that. But these LA riots happen in the city. There's other groups of people in these cities, even black people. So there's no proof that it was only Korean stores or Asian business that was getting affected during those LA riots. And there's no proof that it was black people that was burning up those buildings because of the LA riot. It's no proof of that. I mean, I could be wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no proof. Because this is the thing where there's people that will burn down their own businesses, damage their own businesses, and try to play it off like protesters did it. Cause that's been kind of documented in history, especially around in the 60s. Some of these business owners, they will burn their own business and try to flex like, oh, these rioters, they the ones that did it. And I don't have a problem with having a dialogue. If there's some Asians out here, especially if you some type of leader, you want to have a dialogue and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure black folks have no issues, especially the so-called leaders. But the thing is, it's like y'all trying to get some kind of coalition going on, knowing that there's really no coalition between our communities like that. I even go to like Latino communities. There really is no black and brown coalition like that. I mean, it might be individually, but not collectively. We have to be real. Like, a lot of communities have this anti-blackness in their communities. There really is no coalition because we really don't have any friends like that. And this is what I pointed out to a guy in his video. The problem is, and this is not just with the Asian community, this is with other people of color as well. The problem is other people of color want black people to do the heavy lifting. They expect black people to just wear the S on their chest or run to their defense like they the Flash and do all the heavy lifting. And that time is over with. Of course, there's going to be black people that's going to support you regardless. Of course. there's going to be black people that's not going to be willing to do that, because many feel like, yo, why should I go out here and cape for you when you ain't riding out for me? And some people will say, well, that's not true. That's people that protest with y'all. But the thing is, I appreciate that, especially within the Asian community. There's people that protest, but the thing is, that's just recently with the George Floyd situation. That's just recent. I mean, there was other instances before that for years. So people are just now starting to show some report, and I gotta give credit where credit is due, especially there in Japan. There was people protesting. I gotta be fair and give credit where credit's due, but at the same time, it's not collective. It's not like half the population of those communities came out of support. Not even 50%. Look, the start of a dialogue, you can't come and start demanding people to do this, that, and the third. That's not how you have a dialogue or a negotiate. You have to prove to us that you're worth going out here to stand by. I mean, we have no problem with that. We already are there protesting with y'all on Stop the Asian Hate. That's black people protesting with y'all. We'll already protest with you and stand by you, but you just can't expect us to do the heavy lifting, put ourselves out there in the front line. I mean, we'll stand beside you, but we're not gonna put ourselves out there in the front line. And I feel like that's what many groups want black people to do. They want black people to stand out there in the front lines and take all the slings and arrows, while they just get to chill on the side. And as soon as they get what they want, they act like they don't know you, or hurry up and buy. And that's something I'm not necessarily feeling, because ain't no way in heck you should be trying to latch your black folk about anything when that's like anti-blackness sentiments in your community. Like, if you really want us to go out here and ride out for real, I'm talking about, hey, if we gotta throw hands with the enemy, we gotta put ourselves in the front street and go hard in the paint. Y'all want us to go real hard in the paint, y'all gonna have to prove to us that you're worth it. Because look, we're gonna have to come to the table and discuss some of the issues before we go all out like that. Before we go Super Saiyan God and stuff, we're gonna have to come to terms with some of these issues, like the anti-blackness that goes on in these Asian communities, in the white worshiping that goes on in these Asian communities. And the thing is, it's not an Asian community problem. That's a people of color problem, because that goes on in the black community as well. Like, anti-blackness and white worship, that goes on in the black community. That goes on in other people of color communities, like Latinos, etc. We're going to have to discuss this on both sides, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to single out people or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not my intention. Because there's no way in heck that I'm going to go out there and put myself in the front line for individuals, a lot of individuals that might have some anti-black views or still worship whiteness. Because what this really is about, that, I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect or come at people, because I have no issues. I have no problem with people. I really don't, but I got to keep it real. A lot of you guys you don't want to call out this white guy. You don't want to call out white daddy and white mommy, because you still sucking his nutsack. I'm sorry to say this, but it is what it is. You guys are trying to scapegoat us, so you don't have to call this white guy, because you don't want to lose that status. And right now, it seems like y'all trying to run away from it, but you wasn't running away from it years ago. Cause again, what I know is, whenever everybody gets attacked, now they want to extend their hand to black people. Now they want black people to come to the negotiation table. Society has to stop treating us like a side chick. You only come with us when you got that issue scratch. After you done, then you just push us to the side and act like you don't know us. That's side chick status. I'm sorry, we don't want that side chick status. You want a dialogue with us and stuff, it has to be genuine. I mean, we'll support you regardless, but if you want us to put in that work for real, you want us to go hard in the paint for real, but it got to be genuine. Because I'm hearing stories of black people having bad experience for years. I've recently heard this black female talking about how she had a Vietnamese friend, right? And the black girl was basically her first friend. So she had to wait outside in the rain because her parents told her not to bring black people home. If she bring black people home, her parents are going to kill her or disown her. And it's crazy because black people supported the Vietnamese. We didn't even want to go down there in the war and kill them because we knew it was wrong. A lot of black men went to jail for that because a lot of black people are hurt. For real, a lot of black people are hurt right now because we feel like we've been putting in work for everybody while looking out for our own issues ever since, the Reconstruction era, black codes, Jim Crow. We've been looking out for our own interests while looking out for the interests of other groups of people. And then a lot of individuals from these other groups have this anti-blackness mindset towards us, and we didn't even do anything to them historically. Yet we're the boogeyman of everybody's story. We're the villain of everybody's story for no reason. And I do feel some type of way about that. I mean, I don't put that on every individual because I try to judge people by individuals as individuals by the content of their character because I want them to do the same for me. I try to live by example, but it still doesn't make it any easier. You always have this in the back of your mind. There's gonna be people that just don't like you just because the color of your skin, and they may not even know you. They may not even want to give it a chance to know you. They're just going off either what white supremacy said or what this media said. They're going off these images on the media, and it's kind of sad to me. I really do think it's sad, man. It's messed up because I'm not what this media said that I'm supposedly to be. I also want to say this last thing before I go, but these attacks, like it really doesn't make sense once you guys actually use your head, it doesn't make sense. The media was after these Proud Boys, Trump, blaming all the hate on them. Now all of a sudden when they out of office, at least Trump and Biden's in office, now all of a sudden the media's pointing the finger at black people for the most part. Or at least trying. Not just the mainstream media, but social media as well. Makes no sense at all. When the COVID first came, black people wasn't really complaining like that. About what about our jobs, man? We're losing our jobs. What about our businesses? It was white folks for the most part complaining like that. And then black people didn't even point the fingers at Asian people. Majority of black people, I'm saying 99% pointed their fingers at Trump. All that smoke was pointing at Trump because he didn't do a good job with the COVID. People wasn't even blaming Asian people for the coronavirus. At least in black society, black people was on. They sat on Trump, so we wasn't really doing anything. We wasn't really blaming y'all during the pandemic. So why would all of a sudden that we would just start doing it now post pandemic? Like it makes no sense at all. Actually use your head, and then it doesn't make anything better when you have these talking heads like Lauren Chain and the other Uncle Chains out here trying to point the finger at black people. If any of you guys don't know what an Uncle Chain is, it's basically like a Sambo or Uncle Tom, but Asian. Cause we gotta deal with those type of people in our community as well. These sellouts, yeah, we deal with them too, man. And I still support, Stop Asian. Hey, I still support that. But I'm sorry. People are trying to scapegoat the black community. I'm sorry. You can't scapegoat us.